Do it. You did it last time.
This is episode 1 of the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace.
Season 2.
Coffee and Comic Citizen. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. Just before this, I was trying to eat an egg bite. My tongue was running. It took for 30 seconds, but now we're here. We made it.
Yeah. I've done that before, but I like things hot all the time. I just, no matter what, if I take it out of the drive-thru from Starbucks, I'll just eat it right there.
That is disgusting.
That's just me.
Your tongue must be so rough.
Burn my roof of my mouth. I'll still eat it. It's fine.
That's what we're smart to do.
All right.
So today's topic, I think we said...
Yeah, we were debating. We were either talking The Last Guardians or
The
Marvels. It's been a while since we kind of connected, and a few things have happened, and I know you want to kind of get into Guardians because that's your baby. So we can discuss Guardians and see where we go in the time that we got. Okay.
Okay.
Right,
that sounds good.
I already have a general idea. This is kind of like how we used to do online, where you're going to be the good cop, and I'll be the bad cop.
This is what the people come for.
Mm-hmm.
This is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, should we do our spoiler-free review?
Oh, no, it's streaming now.
Oh, okay.
So,
just kidding.
yeah.
Okay, just kidding.
Spoiler-free if the movie
it's
just came out. You know what I'm saying?
It's too late.
Y'all didn't see it. I'm sorry.
At this point, this is your fault.
Right, exactly. All right, go for it.
Okay. So just overarching, I think, opinions of the project. I wouldn't say it's my favorite of the Guardians films. I think there's like something really special about the first one that I think will always be my favorite.
Okay.
But I think this is a really good end to this trilogy. And I feel like there was just so much expectations built up to it, from Comic-Con to just like mini clips released beforehand and stuff. And I feel like they delivered on the things that I was expecting. I expected this to be very like emotionally driven, very like tear-jerking. Like I was expected to see a lot of things. And I was avoiding a lot of trailers and just like those little clips here and there just because I wanted to kind of go into it and feel immersed in the film just for like the first time, with getting a lot of exposure beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see the mini clip that just kind of showcased the group with Rocket and Lila and Pete and Blur, where they like come up with their names. Did you see that mini clip beforehand, or did you just see it in like the movie?
It's been a minute.
So I had seen the mini clip. I think it was a week of the movie, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch this one. And it was basically just like stabs and like whipped of a knife, and like how beautifully it was made. I'm like, oh yeah, this movie's gonna fuck me up, you know? I think that clip was a very like good representation of like how the film overall felt for me, in that it was very it was just very heartwarming. And I feel like we really see like the accumulation of like the love that these characters have amongst each other. They're a band of just like misfits and weirdos. You know, they're not quite superheroes. They're more like outer space adventures, in the words of James Gunn. And I think that there's something really special about groups come together with a lot of imperfect characters. And, you know, Rocket, from the initial introduction of the Guardians, we already got pieces of his really, really, like, tragic and just really sad. You know, same thing in the second film, when we see him compared to Yondu, and like kind of the rationale behind why they're almost trying to push away people that they love, and to kind of, you know, shield themselves from like the pain or the potential pain of like loss. And then you just see it all come together in this film. And it's wonderful because I feel like you see all of these characters come together, and all the events of the film are to save Rocket. And then the scene that like I think for me was really big was also when they were on like they were on comms. And Nebula was like, where are you guys? Because they're on like the ship ready to rescue, but they're not on the ship anymore. And as they're kind of going back and forth with their banter, you hear Rocket come through, and this is where Nebula and Mantis first hear Rocket, and they're like, "He's gonna be okay." And so that was a really good scene. Especially, I feel like anytime you get like emotions out of Nebula, I feel like you did something good. You did something special. So those are kind of my general feels of the film. All right, let's hear you ruin it. Let's go.
All right, so just for starters, what's today? We're in November. It's like November 30th, and I'm gonna say the last time I saw the movie was when it came out, which was May.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been some time since I've seen it, but from what I can recall, honestly, y'all may hate, but I feel like I was more entertained with the holiday special that they had late last year. I think that was a little bit more comical, to where that's what I'm looking for when it comes to the Guardians. I'm looking more of like the lighter aspect of an MCU movie. This one, though, it had its moments. It was a little. It wasn't even a little. It was a lot darker than normal. The whole Rocket story. It's like I get, but it wasn't something that we needed. That was like a question that I had. I know we had to introduce what's the guy's name with the purple outfit, which is
my iPad isn't working, so I couldn't even look up my notes. Hold on, I got this. We got this, guys. It's I'm reliving Comic-Con when he enters like the stage.
Okay. Well, anyway, when it comes down to it, just this story in general, it was just a little confusing for me, just because though he's out there creating other, let's say, Earths or whatnot, like I didn't even get the idea if he is of Earth, you know what I'm saying, or he's just like a human from another planet, and let's go. That's the first, because every off-Earth thing has just been another type of alien. So there was really no definition as far as where this guy came from. He just happened to be a smart black dude in space and could just create and clone and make creatures smarter or whatnot. So that kind of took away like it took some of the Guardian aspects from the new ones. And then I think lastly, one thing that I didn't see at all, which I was kind of a little bothered about, was this is the first Guardian project, and this is including anything Infinity War related or anything that you've seen the Guardians in, where Peter Quill doesn't have a helmet. And there was a point in this movie to where that helmet could have been a savior, like it did in the original, but no helmet at all. So this wasn't a Star-Lord movie. This was just like a Peter Quill and Friends type movie for me. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't Star-Lord to me. So that was pretty much my idea, or how I feel, of Guardians 3.
Okay. A couple pieces. But before I get into kind of the meat of it, completely agree. I think if you're going to risk a character's life, like, I need to believe it. And especially if it's like, okay, if you're going to kill, obviously Peter Quill's going to die. But if you're going to, like, potentially kill off a character, but you're going to kill him off in a way that's very easily avoidable, it's like, really? This is how it's going to go out?
Right.
So I agree. Like, I stand by that critique. And I think it kind of walks the line very slightly of what I call, like, the Fast and Furious phenomenon, is that, like, you risk a character, but you know he's gonna leave that state just because the solution could have been so simple, and I could have easily seen someone, like, pull him out of that.
Right.
So I have a critique on it. I thought for me, I didn't have, like, I wanted to feel what I felt with, like, Rocket, and that, like, there was, like, the risk of him being lost.
Right.
And I didn't feel that with Peter Quill. So then at that point, I feel like, what was the point of that scene, right? So I definitely stand by the critique. I definitely share that critique with you. Revisiting a couple of the other things. So in terms of, like, I guess the feel, the tone, the flavor of the Guardians of the Galaxy films is always such a very specific, I think, color palette.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the more lighthearted films. It's one of the films where I think in other projects where the critique is like, okay, the comedy overshadows the story. I feel like with the Guardians of the Galaxy, like that kind of saturation of comedy makes sense in that like world and this dynamic. And I think with this particular film, they did shift and sacrifice some of that comedy element, but I think they shifted in and sacrificed it for like a very, very deep story with a lot of dark elements to it, which is something that they think they did prime us for pretty well beforehand. But it still very much had that Guardians of the Galaxy, like, I feel like it's still under the genre.
Let me stop you right there. Though it may have the quote-unquote essence of the Guardians as a group, for me, it wasn't the essence of a James Gunn movie. And being that this is like his last one, anything that we've seen so far from anything Marvel related, and now with the Peacekeeper or Peacemaker or whatever that HBO project is called, I'm expecting to at least get a few laughs here and there. And I feel like the only laugh that, then honestly, I think felt forced was with Adam Warlock. And like I could see where they tried to land it, but it didn't really land for me. Like he wasn't really, it felt forced.
See, I feel like it doesn't feel like a James Gunn film. Like it feels like a James Gunn film to me. And I feel like they had a lot of really good hitters when it came to like the comedic elements of it. Like just like the scene when they meet family that kind of like takes them in on like the fake birth. And they're trying to communicate and like get across kind of what they're looking for, who they're looking for, and you get the banter between like Mantis and Nebula. And like the critique that like Mantis Nebula has of Mantis in the full film, of like I think it's like the sound effect that Mantis makes between being dead and being like I'm like not remembering because I haven't seen this movie in a while either. Well, not a while. It's been like a month. I thought like a month ago, but like that scene, the scene where like Peter Quill is trying to get Nebula to get into the car, but she can't figure out how to freaking open the car. And then he's like, okay, you pull this thing and you do that. And then she's like, and then what? He's like, you get in the fucking car. Like it's like I feel like this scene. Right? Yeah, it was like the first F-bomb. And then just like the whole like, I mean, anytime Drax is on the screen, it's just probably gold for me. So I feel like the pieces that had the comedy to it, I think were solid. Again, I don't disagree that I think the proportions were of like comedy to like everything else were reduced in this film, but it's because, you know, I think they're building out a story that does need to be told. Like I know you were saying like, oh, does it like did we need to see this? But yeah, we fucking did, because like the prior two films I think build up to a lot of the layers that come with a character like Rocket. You know, you get an understanding of kind of what happened to him in the first film, where you get this like wonderful monologue of Rocket saying like I didn't ask to be put together. I didn't ask to be, you know, like put apart and assembled over and over and over and over again. Like I'm such kind of freak, like just with that scene. And then even in like the scene where he kind of has this breakthrough with Yondu, because he has this like front. He has this front of like, I don't need these people, I don't care, I'm like not invested, but that's really false. And I think you see these things, and with this film, you really get a full understanding and the full picture of where that comes from and where that stems from. Like Rocket, you know, in his like younger form is so pure and just so sweet and just like just wants to fly the forever sky with his friends. And you know, like he was the only one to escape. Like he saw his friends die, and you see that immediate shift and what like that changes in him, right? Like he's crying and sobbing, and then he just attacks the high evolutionaries face to shreds. And I love that you do get to see just the severity of how like deformed he was left by that attack at the end of it. I think that this story was essential to hear. And I think, you know, feeling the pain that Rocket has and vulnerability to be able to love another group in that dynamic in that way, I think showcases just how like woven together this like team is. So I think it definitely needed to be told. And I do feel like it still retains a lot of like what we expect from the Guardians. And I think they did a good job, I think, of setting that expectation ahead of time. And I think it was purposeful releasing certain clips to kind of get that new flavor and taste, just to prepare us, because it is a little bit of a shift in terms of the spectrum of like what we expect from Guardians.
Wait,
and then
so
just what was that?
Let me ask you: is this Guardians? Is this end of phase 4 or start of phase 5?
This is still phase 4, I believe.
Was it before? No, Wakanda Forever. I think.
Oh, that's right. That wrapped phase 4. So this is phase 5.
Okay.
This is phase 5.
Phase 5. Okay.
And something that I'm really liking about, I guess, phase 5 thus far, and this is something I mentioned, is that they need to start weaving some things together. I think they have powers of a lot of new individuals, remaining individuals and characters. And I think that they need to really start weaving together these relationships and these dynamics, because if they don't do that in this phase, in phase 5, by the time we get into phase 6, where like the stakes are building up to the big like secret wars, like we're not going to care once they hit the battlefield. Like we don't have a sensation of like, oh my God, we can lose.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. And so far in phase 5, like we, obviously got the Guardians, like that was the finale of the Guardians as we know them, but the build up of a new team, and we know that Peter Quill is going to be coming back. And then, the Marvels, we have another team kind of building up, which also ended with like the introduction or segue into the Young Avengers. And so for me, this is very like, I think reassuring. It's very, I think it tells me that I hope they're going in the right direction. Obviously, we have our critiques in terms of like the level of storytelling we're getting, and I do hope that gets corrected, but I'm content that they are doing that in phase 5.
Mm-hmm.
To talk about Adam Warlock, because I know that I think he was used a lot to anchor some of the humor.
Before we even get to that, because I do have some comments on what you kind of just said, and it's going to kind of come back to the phases, and it's just 2 aspects, right? So the first one is Rocket, right? And just kind of back to the need of knowing what's going on. Let's say when it comes down to Rocket, right? This is the top of phase 5, and I just looked it up to see when the Guardians were introduced, which I was trying to figure out whether it was 1 or 2, which is 2. But now, like, why phase 5 are we kind of getting like the origin story of Rocket, And I'm thinking by this point, especially with phase 4 kind of come and going, I'm thinking phase 4, we're here to kind of introduce new characters and then start gearing us for what's to come in phase 5 and 6 or whatever, right? So is it, for me, I can understand why they wanted to do that, just to kind of introduce the High Evolutionary, and then wanted to give us that background story with Rocket as well. But now with the High Revolutionary, I only saw clips of the Comic-Con footage, but being that we're starting this in this phase 5, I'm thinking we're already at a point where we're already going multiversal, and like I'm expecting something to where he's as big as, I'm not even talking like big bad, but something is like as a big character as, let's say, as a, I don't want to say a Colonel, but what's the things that made their Colonel? Celestial. Like something to where he has a bigger heart, to where we bring him here in this movie, and it was like kind of minimal, It was
I don't think the purpose of this film is to build up the High Evolutionary, right? Like he's a piece of Rocket's like origins, Rocket's like story, and I think that's why he fits in this piece. I feel like if you were to introduce something like a Celestial, like that overshadows, I feel like what this film is meant to be about, which is the Guardians, which is Rocket, which is all those dynamics and those different relationships we've seen so far. Mm-hmm. And I think in terms of just like that, the High Evolutionary, I feel like they did a really good job of just showing us how, like, I don't know if deranged is the word. Like he was an interesting character, I think, to get to know as well. Sure. Like just his whole vision of like refining and perfecting like a race and then putting it on a planet, but the fact that he just continuously destroys them, throws away the piece of paper, and then just starts fresh all the time. Like, it shows just how little he values life.
Right.
But at the same time, he like values like the like perfect living things. I think the character was really, really interesting. So I don't think it was like a throwaway character either, just to introduce or give us the backstory of Rocket. I feel like it was very fitting for his story, and I feel like it makes so much sense. And he's not a Celestial, he's not a Thanos, but like I think he was still a really, really interesting like villain, you know?
So in terms of just introduction, this movie was more of an introduction for Adam Warlock, basically.
Like, I wouldn't isolate it to that. I think it's, you know, the end of the trilogy, right? The Guardians as we know them. I think it does what like other successful Marvel films do, in that like you get your story, but then there's something left, like a little string at the end, and then gets woven into whatever like upcoming projects are. And in this one, I think Adam Warlock was part of that string, right? But it's like the new assembly of the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is Adam Warlock, Rocket, Groot, I forget that one girl that comes from like the, you know, got like a little short haircut. She's like, you know what I'm talking about? Like the little kids. No. You know how there's like the kids at the end that only say like one word or something? One of those kids is part of the Guardians.
That whatchamacallit can talk to?
Yeah.
Batista?
I don't know what it's called. Yeah. But there's those. So, you know, I think that's like one of the remaining threads that, you know, we're going to see continue. I know that this film ended with like Peter Quill real return. So it's like the main focus is, you know, like giving us that backstory of Rocket, you know, closing off this chapter of the Guardians of the Galaxy as we know it. But we have those threads that then be woven into future projects. So the new assembly of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know if Gamora's coming back with the Ravagers, but that's a team of it in and of itself.
Right.
That I would be very surprised wouldn't join us in the battlefield with the Secret War, since they were on the battlefield with Endgame, right? Mm-hmm. And then also just Peter Quill.
Wait,
still active.
The Ravagers were?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
I don't remember, but
Ravagers were. So I think, you know, like I feel like it successfully did what other Marvel films did in phase like 1, 2, and 3, in that you get your story. The story I think was wonderful. I think it makes sense for the characters that were like, you know, seen and involved, but then you still have your little thread that, you know, will lead into future projects and we'll kind of see continue on. Yeah, that's kind of my film.
So let me ask you, because I'm looking up phases at the moment, right? And let's say post Infinity War, I'm gonna look at the movies that kind of released. Mm-hmm. So phase 4, there's Widow, there's Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, Thor, and Wakanda Forever. And then right after Wakanda Forever, those movies drop. So if we were to...
Quantumania phase 5. Is that the first film after phase 5?
Quantumania?
Yeah.
Quantumania came after this.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
So I'm just saying up until this point, let's say if we start a new ranking system, just for now, just for conversation's sake, where would you put Guardians among this list of 5 or 6 movies?
Definitely under 1 and 2. There's been like I kind of rock back and forth on 2. And
I'm gonna say number 1 is already
3.
No Way Home. I'm sorry, nothing so far.
What happened?
No Way Home.
No,
that's
absolutely.
number 1.
So I
right
think let's look at mid-pack in terms of our ranking. Do you have the ranking system that we have so far?
No, not pulled up.
Then this means nothing to me because I don't know where to slap her.
That's what I'm saying. So we're just gonna say phase 4 and on, from Widow, Shang-Chi.
Oh, from phase 4 so far. Okay, gotcha.
Up until Guardians.
Up until there.
And after Guardians, so that's not including Quantumania.
Okay, cool. So we'll leave Quantumania out of it. Okay, so let's see. I will tell you the ones that definitively, I think, easily outranked, obviously, above Eternals, above Multiverse of Madness, above Thor: Love and Thunder, above Thor: Love and Thunder. obviously No Way Home is at the top. That's unbeatable. Shang-Chi was amazing. Like, I feel like of like these films we've gotten so far, I feel like that was a really great origin story and introduction to a new character that I really want to see again. And a film that also did with this with Guardians did is that you get this amazing story, but you have those little like pieces of thread left at the end that you're gonna get woven down the road. We've already gotten that connection with him and other characters like Wong and Bruce and Captain Marvel, and I feel like those things are like what's missing in a lot of projects, and the connection to other pieces of the world that we've been building out. And Shang-Chi did that so well. So, okay, so far I say No Way Home, Shang-Chi.
And you're putting at 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda's 3.
Guardians 3. Black Widow.
Wait, Guardians is 3?
Guardians 3, as in like the one we were just talking
Guardians
about.
3 is 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guardians, yeah. And then I'm going to put
Widow?
Black Widow, Thor Love and Thunder.
We can just stop at Widow. Widow's number 5. Those are top 5.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with that. I'm not mad at that list. I think right now, just to kind of end on a decent note with Guardians, like, though Guardians, like, a few of them, they kind of went off to do their own thing. I know Peter Quill went back to Earth. They ended it with them forming a new team, or a new work team, which consists of, run it down for me.
The new Guardians?
Yeah.
So we have Rocket, we have Adam Warlock, Groot, that alien girl whose name I don't know, Kraglin is part of it.
Okay.
We have Cosmo, the space dog, and
what's Batista's character's name?
Dave Batista, is he still on it? I don't think so.
No,
I think he did his own thing. Drax.
Drax. So he's retired.
I think
basically.
so.
He's done. Okay. I got you.
They have a new group of 6. So this is Adam Warlock again, because this is actually one of my bets with the film. So I think with the initial announcement of who's going to be playing Adam Warlock, I forget the actor's name, so everyone was kind of like, what? Because I feel like everyone has a vision of him from like We Are the Millers, and he's like the guy who gets like bit by the spider, you know? Yeah. But then, like, I think none of us really saw a recent picture of him or him in like now. And I remember there was like a picture that was circulating. Everyone was like, oh,
yeah.
This could actually work. Because Adam Warlock is like a very big deal. Like, he's a very big character in like the original like Infinity War like storyline in the comics. And so I think once we kind of saw the actor in the present time, we're like, this could work. And something I did not like that they did is that they ended up making his character like a mama's boy and very much just like a joke. And I didn't like that because I thought this could have been an amazing opportunity to, like, I don't think it was a good and authentic introduction to Adam Warlock.
Do you know if he was initially made in the comics by the old people? I don't remember their names.
I know I knew his origin because, like, I know I researched it, I think, in my prep for the release of Guardians 3, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't think it's exactly that way. I want to say the High Evolutionary is still involved in some way, but I can't remember for certain, so that's going to be something that goes in stories. But, I don't think there was an authentic introduction to the character. And I think they did a disservice to the actor because I feel like I would have loved to see him play a little bit more of a serious role. And so, I was not a fan of what they did with Adam Warlock. I didn't like that he was somewhat of an anchor for, like, the comedy as well. I wasn't a fan of that. Something we haven't talked about that we need to talk about is Gamora and Peter Quill.
What did they talk about? Kind of remind me, just because that whole story, from what I can remember, it was non-existent.
So, leading into this film, of course, Infinity War, Gamora dies, right? She's sacrificed for the Soul Stone. We see an earlier variant of her come into the battlefield in game, right, with Thanos in the game from the past, and she stays, right? So, like, Thanos's army was like flipped away basically, and because she changed sides, she wasn't part of that, so she stayed. We finished Endgame with Peter Quill, searching, like actively searching for Gamora, but we don't see like a definitive answer. So at that point, we weren't really sure if she was there or not, right? Yeah. But we do, see him mourning for that in the holiday special. So we knew that was going to come back around in this film. And obviously Peter, like at the start of this film, like he is responsible for what happened to Rocket. Like it's something that they even talked about in Comic-Con, is that because of his, like the place that he is, like he's not there for his team. Like he left his team vulnerable for this attack. Like he wasn't present, right? They had to literally carry this man out on who knows how many like benders, right, resulting in him just being like blacked out and then having to be carried into his room by the team.
Right.
And I like that we get to see just like, I guess, the depth of his love for Gamora. Mm-hmm. And see how in this film he keeps asking her like, you don't remember, and trying to like force her to be that Gamora for him. And first of all, how is she supposed to remember something she never lived? Like that's annoying me. And I'm not a fan that he kept trying to mold her into something that he needs or he wants. I wasn't a fan of that, but I get it, right? Like he's longing for something he can't get. Right. The part that really irked me was that he kept asking, like, "Don't you remember?" And I'm like, "Why the fuck would she remember?" So, but I do like you seeing just like how much he wants to put her into that block, But unfortunately, it's like we learned this in like when we were 3. Like the triangle block does not fit in circle,
Right.
And I think it's cool because I think we get to like this version of Gamora, mm-hmm. Which is very different than the one that we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. And I think it's actually really cool. It's really cool because in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, I think a piece that blends into the storytelling and just is her outfit that she wears from the start to the end of the film. So the start of the film, she wears like this very sheer, like front exposed, like top, and like it's very, it's her coming from Thanos. Like she just recently left like Thanos and all of that. And then through the events of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, obviously she becomes one with the team. She gets to hear music really for the first time and dance and all these things. And by the end of it, like her transformation is what explains why this Gamora is so different from that. Because by the end of Volume 1, like even her clothes, like kind of, I think, are a really good representation of that development. Because at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, she wears like this really cute, like long sleeve, like skirt combo, and it's like a really, really cute outfit. Like it's just. I feel like this post I've seen that was like, can we all agree that this was like outfit because it's adorable? And because I have a Gamora tattoo, right? So my Gamora tattoo has the headphones that she wears when she listens to music for the first time. But the outfit, we specifically used the one from the end of the film versus the one that she wore, just because like this is one of the pivotal moments of her shifting into that new, like, or just having that change in her. And that is such a unique like journey that she went through with the Guardians that just can't be replicated. She didn't. She's so different now.
We need to have a disclaimer here of how much we need to have a disclaimer of how much of a stan you are for Gamora. You're just like
I have a tattoo. The
biggest Gamora fan because I wouldn't have paid attention to what she was wearing. I can say as far as commenting on what you mentioned as far as her character, I think. This Gamora that we have now is just, and you can't say it's different from the previous Gamora. I would say, we even before this Gamora, I feel like we've known her to be fierce, and I think being trained by Thanos, like she would have to show some side that we never really got in all of like the Guardians. Like she's Thanos' daughter, where we got the quote-unquote nicer version. Like, she started out a little mean in Volume 1, and then towards the end of 2, it was like that one big happy family. But I think it was good that we got to see Thanos' daughter in Volume 3, I wasn't really paying too much attention to what she was wearing. It was just more so her being a badass. And I think, if anything, without the Guardians, her going to the Ravagers, I think that was I want to say perfect in terms of just the direction that she would choose, you know. So, and it wasn't a matter of Peter pushing her away. I just don't think that if it wasn't the instance of everybody going for the orb in volume 1, then that's probably what she would have turned out to do.
And then, you know, like I said, like they're a band of just random weirdos and misfits, right? Like that, I think, experience that they had in volume 1 was so special and so unique, and like it shifted Gamora. And like I think, you know, with her having been exposed to this team, right, of idiots, you know, and like I said, I think it speaks to how special that story was and how you know, just wonderful that like a volume 1 is. And I think, yeah, like you see more of, I guess, like how you said, like I think the description kind of like the versus on her. You know, she didn't get that exposure with like the Guardians, so she didn't get that shift in that way, right? So Gamora has always like had that back and forth of like, is Thanos' mission wrong, right? Like that's the reason she left regardless, right? There's a reason why she changed sides on the Battle of Endgame, right? Like that isn't exclusive to her exposure to the Guardian. She was already doing that regardless, right? So this is just, they said, like, I think if that mission went and she didn't come across the Guardians, this is more, I think, of how she would have continued, right? Like I think her development would have been. And I would definitely wouldn't say like Peter pushed her away. It's more so like she is just her own person, and this is where her story is now taking her.
Right.
And
well, I'm not saying like verbatim, like he pushed her away, but he was a lot, you know. Like you said, he was trying to be like lovey-dovey to someone who he honestly didn't really know. He knew somebody else, you know, though quote unquote same person. He didn't know this person, but yet he was in love with her, no matter what. You know?
You can't like blame him, right? Like you can't blame him. Like you understand where that stems from. Like, you know, I think if you get the chance to see like a loved one that you've lost, like I think it's something that you just like. You see it as a gift, I think, first, because, you know, when he sees her, he's like, I thought I lost you. And it's so very true. Like, he did lose her. Like, you know, Gamora died. I think another example would be when you see Maria Rambeau meet her mom, but not her mom at the end of the Marvels, right? And, like, that alternate reality. You know, you just see how you're, like what that means to her. I think it's a very similar thing that happened with Peter Quill, but obviously that's not who you think it is, you know, and you can't force it. And I think the scene that for me destroyed me, but I loved it, and like I will rewatch it so many times because I think it doesn't cheapen like the feeling it gives me, is when Peter and Gamora say goodbye at the end of the film, and you know, they're not even looking at each other, and Gamora just says like, I thought we were fun. And he's like, if you wouldn't believe. I feel like I'm going to cry just talking about it. Like, that scene for me was just so beautiful. Because I feel like Peter comes to terms with, like, you know, I have lost somebody. And I can mourn for that loss. Like, what is grief if not love persevering? Like, that scene. And also accepting, like, hey, like, you have a variant of Gamora in this world. And that, in and of itself, is a blessing. You can't force her to be something that she's not. But, you know, you kind of appreciate her for what she is. And Gamora is happy. Like, Gamora, this Gamora we have is happy. Like, she has still found a family with the Ravagers. And I'm happy that we did get to see that before this film wrapped up. I feel it kind of, I think, in a really nice little bow. And so I'm very happy with just the storyline of Peter and Gamora. And just revisiting, yes, 1000%. I'm just a stand for Gamora, period. However, cinematography is every element of a film that does not involve the dialogue, right? So clothing is a really, really big anchor for storytelling, especially when you see these like drastic shifts, or even subtly drastic shifts of like clothes and stuff like that too. So I think that's why I have an eye for it. But of course,
it's not like she went from like warrior to princess, you know what I'm saying?
No, it's not necessarily who she is, right? She didn't turn into Quill. She didn't turn into, you know, like Drax or anything like that, but you see just kind of the effect that this experience has on her. And I think that's just a really great example of like how it's represented. And I think that they did that really, like, I like how they did that. But yeah, it does not scratch the fact that yes, I'm just a stupidly big fan regardless. But yeah, I was very content with what this film did. Really happy with this episode.
Okay. So I think we're going to end it on that note. One thing that I do want to kind of mention just for future purpose, I think we should make a list now to start revisiting our list in terms of we may do another, like, I forgot what type of battle we did on, like, power up or whatnot in terms, because as of right now, currently, because I do want to insert Adam Warlock into that conversation, though we didn't really get to see much of his power in this movie. I know he is like a super being that we should look out for, especially in Secret Wars, because we have him, we have the Squirrel Girl who has multiple powers, and now we have Maria Rambeau in another universe. So we're just
because I think it's different feel for her capabilities. Like she now has these huge, like interdimensional, like pets that follow her. Like I think you get to see just how much more she can do than just like go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. So I don't even want to revisit her.
Yeah, because I don't even remember that. So I'm going to have to rewatch the whole film and see.
I would even have you rewatch the holiday special, because I think you get also an idea of just her abilities as like just hand-to-hand combat in addition. So we'll definitely bring her up on that conversation. I just think the next one, since we have a couple of pieces and projects to revisit, I think then we should do following each project. We'll be like, okay, these are the new characters we got. Where do they rank? And then kind of do that. So that might be next episode.
Okay. All right. Well, this is the end of episode 1. We're back, guys. We had a little test run last week or the week before, but now we're getting things into motion, and just be on the lookout. Next time we're going to be talking about, we may revisit the Marvels, because we didn't get a chance to talk about it today. So I think I may call this episode going back to the Guardians, and then same thing for the Marvels, kind of going back, revisiting.
We have to catch up.
We're going to catch up, and keep it locked. Stay tuned. And if you haven't already, follow us online at the Comic Cinematic Universe on Instagram and on YouTube, the Comic Cinematic Universe. So, Colorado, I'm Chill.
And soon on all platforms that you get your podcast on.
Okay.
But yes, this is Chill and Grace in the Comic Cinematic Universe, and we are signing off.
Awesome. All right, later, guys.
Bye.